Welcome to Let's Talk Petty. We are not petty, but we love to talk about it.
It being mini episodes
Minisodes.
about HOAs. I'm Andrew, your HOA expert.
And I'm Kate, your HOA expert listener.
Why'd you introduce yourself twice?
Did I say Kate already?
Thought so.
I don't think I did.
I don't even remember. I was so excited about these two stories I have. I wasn't even caring about who I was talking to.
Oh. Well, I'm going to get up and go then.
See ya.
Wow.
Now we need your quirky comments.
Wow.
We need your nonsense to give some feedback about this story.
Okay.
And the level of pettiness that HOAs have, and in at least this first case, the pettiness that this person gives back to the HOA.
May I get as indignant as I always do?
Slightly as indignant.
Okay. Then I'm in.
No indignance day. No full indignance day. I'm declaring today to be that day.
You can't just make up days on the spot.
We'll see. All right, so this one is entitled, I have two stories about HOAs today. This one's entitled, He Was Going to Show Them. Very generic title. My family lived under the dictatorial regime of an HOA for about a year and a half. When we moved in, everything was fine. The rules weren't that crazy. No cars on the lawn or stupid ornaments, things like that. My dad, who was into ham radios, without consulting the HOA, put up a small but hardly visible antenna on the back of the house. The top of it could be seen from the front, but only just the very top. Well, the HOA president decided to spoil my dad's harmless hobby by calling him into a meeting to have the high council tell him that he had to take it down. He told them that he would, although there was nothing in the bylaws saying he couldn't have it. Seeing the problem so far?
Are we in Game of Thrones? High Council? Who are these people? These people have way too much time and money on their hands. High Council. I'm going to start a High Council. I want a High Council now.
Does anybody have an opening on a High Council that Kate can join?
I'm just going to make my own. I'm not even going to wait for anybody. I'm making my own High Council. You want to join? Come on in.
Can I be on it?
No.
You like that one? All right, so we're going back to ham radio dad. The next day, the antenna was 15 feet taller, as my dad had raised the extension in response. The HOA president put a fine in our mailbox immediately and gave my dad a stern talking to at our front door. The following day, the antenna was raised up another 10 feet with an extension added in. At that point, it was clearly visible all over the neighborhood. Another fine showed up in our mailbox, and my dad had to go to another meeting with the High Council. They threatened to begin eviction proceedings if he didn't take it down immediately. He acquiesced and agreed to take it down. The next morning, the antenna was still there with my dad on the roof first thing in the morning, waving at the HOA president as he predictably came around to inspect. In a furious huff, he went to the council and called my dad in and told him that they would begin eviction proceedings since he was not only violating HOA rules, but making a mockery of them. At that point, my dad pulled his ace card and had my uncle lawyer come in and explain that where we lived, HOAs could not regulate the use and transmission of ham radios and licensed operators due to their use for emergency communications and transmissions. My dad knew this all along, but just decided to mess with the HOA regardless. He kept his tower, and the HOA caved in on the fines and punishments and realized they couldn't do anything unless they wanted to take us to court and prove that what my dad had was unreasonable, which it clearly wasn't. It's his favorite story to tell at parties.
Anytime anyone is that confident when you are going to them about a problem, you really need to do some internal looking and be like, why are they so confident? Because clearly he knew they had no leg to stand on.
I agree.
I love that he was standing on the roof and waving at them.
I read that, and that would be, as soon as I read that, I was like, Kate absolutely would do that. She would go on the roof, wait for them, throw water balloons at them.
Yes, I would. I don't know about throwing water balloons because I have terrible aim.
You'd probably hit yourself. You'd throw it into the wind and somehow it would whip back at you and hit you in the face.
Yes. Probably something like that. But
you absolutely would have been up there waving at him. Hey, guys, look how tall this is today.
I would have been. And I would have been like, aren't you so proud of me? Do you want to take pictures? I'd be posing up there like a model. Like, look at me and my antenna. Take a picture so you can remember me.
The only thing that would have made this better is if this gentleman would have taken, you know how they take like a kid gets a little line on the door frame as they're growing when they're getting older.
Yeah.
If he had the little marks for each day of how high this antenna was, and they could see just how much higher it had gotten all these times that they called him into the high council.
And then there was also a sign saying, imagine the potential of how high it can continue to go. Please keep sending me fines and calling me to your high council. God. The high council. It's going to have to be my goal now. I'm going to be part of a high council. I feel like I have enough like pretty good friends at work that I could start a high council at work.
You've actually got enough clout now that you could be on a high council of pettiness deciding if people are petty or not.
So I could have 2 high councils because I feel having a high council at work is amazing. Because obviously you wouldn't have like your boss in this high council, but then they would feel like all weird because they're not part of the high council. And of course the high council would be discussing them because they're a boss. So who else would you discuss? It could be a whole thing. Oh, this opened a whole can of worms for me.
I know what you're going to be organizing at work for the next few weeks. Busiest time of the year for you. You're going to be organizing high councils.
Hey, can't get back to work and stop talking about your stupid, dumb high council.
It's been my lifelong goal to be on a high council, and now it's finally coming true.
Oh, God. It is so busy right now, too.
Well, if we had actually been doing video on this one, you would have seen Kate throw her head back so hard when she laughed that her headphones fell off. So if you can just imagine that.
Oh, the thought of me running around work trying to get a high council going while everybody's just so stinking busy running around like idiots.
I can see you in the office back there and just writing up little things on scrolls and melting wax on them and putting your stamp on there.
Oh my God, I have to get a signet ring now. Oh, this is going to be a whole thing.
And that's the only way you communicate with your boss is through this messages sealed with a signet ring.
Oh God, I'm loving this. I am just in my head, just a whole list of people I'm going to have at my high council. It is going to be a very select few.
We'll see if this comes to fruition.
Anyway.
Let's see what ideas you can get from story number 2.
Okay. Let's see.
This one's entitled, It Helps to Read the Fine Print. This one, a family friend got married. He works at a power company. What's your thoughts on that?
Working at a power company?
Yeah.
I don't know. Good for you for working at a power company.
Okay.
It's a power move. No.
Shouldn't have asked you.
What? We just had, what day was it? Aid and abet?
Aid and abetted Punsters Day?
Yeah. What the?
No.
No?
Next year. Save it for next year.
Whatever.
He ends up inventing some kind of new device which saves his company a bunch of money. He patents it and becomes very rich. Now this guy, John, is a simple man. He likes to hunt, fish, and enjoy the great outdoors. John is also very much a do-it-yourself type of guy. Well, John and his wife decide to use their newfound wealth to move into a nice neighborhood that just so happens to have an HOA. First rule of hunting for a house, move into a neighborhood without an HOA. I
feel like when you're a little bit wealthier, though, it's probably a lot harder.
Maybe.
But we do not have that problem. So I don't feel like we've ever had to deal with it.
We're lowly poors living in the poorhouse.
No HOA jerks for us.
Let's see. The first hunting season came around. John put a pole to hang his freshly killed deer so he could butcher it, and then he went out and bagged himself a deer.
God, I just am, as someone who has done that.
Mm-hmm.
That is it's not a pretty job.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're all up in the deer, like doing all that you got to do, I could see how that would be a little disturbing for some people.
Keep that in mind when you hear the rest of the story.
Okay.
John proceeded to butcher the deer in his backyard, which the neighbor wasn't too happy with, and John got reported to the HOA. He ended up having to pay some fines, removing the stand, etc. Well, remember when I said John was a simple man? Also remember how he patented a new technology and made his money off that. John was no idiot, he was quite smart. So John pored over the HOA Association bylaws. There were no rules against butchering deer on your property. However, you couldn't put an artificial pole in the ground. Now that seems like a huge oversight.
No. Who is going... I'm sorry, but the normal person, if you don't hunt, you're not going to be like, you know what? I have this really strong feeling while we're writing these laws that one day in this wealthy neighborhood, someone's gonna want to gut a deer in their yard. We better put that in there. No, I could see how it would be.
How many times
overlooked.
are people putting artificial poles in the ground?
Artificial poles, I could totally see. What are you talking about? People put stupid flags up. They put dumb looking things. Yeah, I could totally see that.
Fair enough. And think about dumb flags.
Uh-huh.
So John worked with the HOA to plant a brand new tree in his front yard. He said it would increase property value, and the HOA was happy to oblige. So John planted his tree. What do you think happens next?
He used the tree to gut his next deer.
And come the next hunting season, John tied up his catch to the tree and butchered the deer on a lovely Sunday afternoon for all to see. So he had an artificial pole in his backyard that really only offended one neighbor if they happened to be looking at him, watching him gut this deer. And then he took that because of the complaint, grew a tree that the HOA paid for, planted under the guise that it would raise the value of the land around for everyone around this tree, and he used said tree to gut deer.
That is pretty funny.
Wasn't really an invention,
but it's thinking outside the box.
Can tell where his intelligence is.
Mm-hmm.
So of those two stories, which one do you like better? Which one do you think was the pettiest response to the HOA? Because they were both pretty strong.
I still have to go with the antenna one.
Really?
Yeah. Because he raised it up 2 times and then took the time to stand out on the roof, which every time I'm thinking is, if that was me, I definitely would have been like leg up. What is that stupid liquor? Captain Morgan or whatever, where he's got his leg. I would have been up there posing like that, like binoculars, looking for this guy to come around. I mean, there's just so much pettiness that you could do.
There was.
I mean, the second one is petty, but the more like time and effort went into the first one. Because he also knew. The first one he knew because he had that lawyer. And
it took him till after the whole thing with the pole to see if he was able to gut a deer.
Yeah.
You changed my mind. I was convinced the second one just because it was so blatant for everyone to see around him and went complete opposite from what he was doing. But the standing on the roof waving, that's the clincher.
And everybody could see it on the first one too, because it was just that little piece. Like who goes by a house and is studying the roof that closely that a small piece of antenna from a ham radio is going to bother them that much? Get a life. High council. That's all I'm going to say.
They need a high council on deer slaughtering in this neighborhood.
Now, they need a high council about their high council. I want to judge on my petty high council, their high council.
We are really getting into complications here that I did not anticipate when I started this episode.
How did you not know that if you're going to talk about something like a high council, I'm not going to be like all in on that? Of course I'm going to be all in on a freaking high council.
Okay. Well, high council away. If anyone wants to join Kate's High Council, she'll have applications on our website. Oh,
no, I'm not. People are not going to apply. I've decided.
You're going to handpick them?
Yes, it is going to be a hand-picked. Because so this is what I need. I need people who agree with me But I also need people who I just cannot stand and like I really hate, because those are the people that also probably hate me. And I need someone, I can't be surrounded by a bunch of yes men. I need someone who's going to fight back so that I can be even more diabolical, because then I can see from both ways how to, like if I need to take someone down or deal with something, I need that, like a group of a-holes against me so I can mentally prepare.
So if any of your enemies are listening to this, they're going to know not to join your high council because you're just going to be using them.
I am going to say with 100%, just, I know it's not happening. None of my enemies are listening to this.
How do you know I'm not your enemy?
Well, darn it. What a good point.
Sometimes what's the saying? Keep your enemies, or your friends closer, your enemies closer.
Is that what this whole thing is?
Your friends close and your enemies closer.
Wow. Okay.
It's all been a setup to get to not join your high council. It's been a wild year.
It is wild. Very wild. But anyway, yeah.
That's my 2 HOA stories for today.
I liked it.
I think I'm going to veer off of HOA for my next set.
Okay.
I might have 2 stories, but definitely have one.
My next one's a good one.
So come back next week. Kate will have her story that she claims is, quote, a good one and that she's, quote, excited about.
I can't believe I use those words for that. That's how good it is, because I never say that. I never say I love it. I never say I'm so excited. I'm just not an excitable person, as we do have
some breaking news on this podcast, though. I just want to let everybody know, breaking news, Kate admitted that she never says things.
What?
I'm just talking and pretending people didn't hear anything you just said.
I never say things.
But that's all. Come back next week. Kate's episode will be amazing. In the meantime, listen to our new podcast, By the Way Today Is. You can go to bythewaytodays.com to download it and subscribe and follow that podcast. You can go to letstalkpetty.com to follow and subscribe and rate this podcast, which certainly helps us and really just makes us feel good. And it feels good to feel good.
It does make us feel good.
That's it for this week. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Please be sure and give our show a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.